All right, here we are, guys. This is a 3-year review of my rock-proof boat. Just kind of want to go over real quick the way that this boat is spec'd. Maybe some of you guys saw some of my other videos where I went over that, but just real quick, this is a River Rocket model. It's an 1872. And the way I spec'd it, you can come over here and film. This is pretty standard, and this is a popular layout. We have, some storage up front, hatches on either side. We have center storage. I have rod boxes in the floor. We have a box right here. That's where my batteries are at. We have a live well, 2 more storage hatches. This is the engine compartment. We have aqua traction flooring on this. I do that. The business is Precision Templates. For anybody that's interested in some boat flooring, whether it's on RockProof or other boats, we can help you out there. I added talons to this boat. These are 10-foot talons. I put these on last year. I tried going 2 years without having talons, and I missed having them. I missed having shallow water anchors, so I decided to go with them again. Not sure if I'm going to get talons again after this or not. I like having shallow water anchors, but I'm considering maybe going power pole or using the Minn Kota Raptors. We'll see about that. I have another boat coming this winter, so some things are going to change. But, just walking around the boat, I got the gussets welded on the back trim tab. This boat has the HD plate, the aluminum plate. This is the first boat that I've had with the plate. We have the plastic UHMW on the sides. This boat, you might be able to see, you can probably see from where you're sitting, you can see some of this is chipped up. This is a wrap, this is a vinyl wrap. It's the first time that I did that on a boat. I don't like the way it held up. It's not very durable. So moving forward, I'm probably gonna go with a different option, but we got 3 years on this thing. We turned the key, it's got 460 hours, I think 462 hours. We were talking about it, maybe an estimated 600 guide trips on this thing. A lot of people on and off this boat, and I take care of it. I don't run the crap out of it, but I get to where I want to go, and I can promise you this boat's been airborne a few times. We have fun with it. And it's held up great. I got some interesting stuff going on here. I know it looks like I have 2 trolling motors. That trolling motor over there was a trolling motor, but now I use it as a mount for my live scope transducers. This is a Minn Kota Altera. I always run these on my boats. If you're looking to spec a boat out, this isn't necessarily the trolling motor I would recommend getting. I like it for guiding because it has a trim feature where I can trim the motor up and down. So as weight shifts around the boat, if we're in really shallow water and weight shifts around the boat, I can always control the head of this thing, so it's at the right spot and the motor's not cavitating. But if I was getting one of these boats just for personal use and, I wasn't chartering out of it, I probably would go with a Minn Kota Ultrex. A newer one, maybe the Quest model. Those things are really nice. But for guiding, that's what I go with. I got some interesting stuff going on here with electronics. You're probably going to ask questions in the comments, what exactly this is. But so I have 2 Humminbird Helixes. I have a 12 and a 10. They're networked together. I use them for side scanning and mapping. And then I have a Garmin. That's an 8616. I use that on for my live scope setup, and that's what that mount is over there. That's a live scope mount now, where I can steer my transducers with the foot pedal. I wanted to be able to put the boat on spot lock with this, and then steer, scope out without the trolling motor. Always, you guys know what I'm talking about. And when your transducers are on your trolling motor, it's kind of a pain in the butt. You either get a pole set up or you get something like that. I don't know what I'm going to do with that moving forward. That whole mount setup, it works, but it's not, I got some ideas. We'll save that for probably the next video on the next boat. this video is about the review on this. Like I said, 460 hours, and this motor and everything, it's been very good. I had a few things, nothing major, but around 200 hours, I had it threw a code and a sensor went out. I was able to read the code and call, RockProof helped me out with it, and then a Sea-Doo dealer provided me with a part. It was just a little sensor. I think it was like $40, not a big deal. Switched it out myself. Other maintenance I did to it this summer, we pulled the pump apart and changed out the main bearing. I don't know if, it's not real hard getting these pumps apart to check on this stuff if you're mechanically inclined, but basically there's a main bearing that the impeller shaft sits on, and around, I think it was around 380 hours, something like that, we decided maybe it was a good idea to replace that bearing. I think that might have been, it was a couple $100. It wasn't real bad. It didn't fail on me, but it was to the point where, you know, once I got the new bearing in there, I noticed that the engine quieted down and it ran smoother. But I'm very impressed with how this thing is held up, you know, the engine and everything like that. This was my first Rotax boat. I had several Mercury sport jets before this, and I never had any problems, no major problems with my sport jet. So I was a little nervous going from a sport jet to, you know, a Rotax, trying something new. And, you know, I use it for work, so I need something to be reliable. But, you know, 460 hours and no major problems. I got nothing to complain about. You know, some stuff I want to talk about and, you know, kind of touch on is, and I mentioned this in one of my other videos, when you fire these things up, you don't want to hammer them right away. You got to let them warm up. So, you know, I'll fire it up and just let it idle, let it warm up to, you know, 130, 140 degrees, and, you know, just take it easy out of the hole. I'm not racing. We'll kind of show some stuff on one of these other boats then too, but I'm not racing to spots or anything like that. I'm not doing a whole lot of tournament fishing. I need the boat to be reliable. So I let it warm up, and something else I don't do is I don't dump it out of the hole. I haven't had any trouble with carbon seals on this boat, and I wonder, maybe, you know, maybe the way I run it could be part of the reason of how I got so many hours out of it without having, you know, any carbon seal issues. But so I don't dump it out of the hole. I'll just ease into the throttle, get up on plane, and once you're up on plane, you know, if you want to open it up, you can open it up, but I don't, just because it's going to burn more fuel, and I'm not racing to a spot. I don't really care. I usually run this boat in between 6,000 and 7,000 RPMs, and you know, it just runs real smooth. It doesn't sound like the motor's overworking or anything like that. It does what it's got to do. I just had the bottom refinished on this boat. It's got the HD plate, and a lot of guys ask me about that plate. You know, this is the first boat that I've had with the plate. You know, do I like it? Would I do it again? I love it. It works great for me. You know, I'll hit rocks. I'll you know, grind the bottom. I'll hit stuff with the boat, and this bottom takes it. So to refinish it, what we did was put a fresh coat of Wetlander on it, and it's fresh. I mean, we'll show you here. You know, crawl underneath the boat. Everything looks real good under there. You'd never guess that this boat was used to guide, or, you know, it has 460 hours on it. It turned out real good. On my next boat, I'm definitely going with that HD plate again. That's worked out great for me. Not everybody needs it. You know, a lot of guys, they just want a boat that they don't got to worry about putting a hole in. And, you know, they don't really care to get into these situations where they're bumping off of rocks and everything like that. And for them, UHMW is fine. That's going to work great for them. You're not going to have any problems, and it's going to last, you know, the life of the boat. But if you're one of those guys that you know that you're getting this boat to run it hard, you seriously want to think about that HD bottom. It's worth it. I know guys have been asking me, you know, there's different options moving forward as far as like the outboards are starting to, you know, make a comeback. And there's a lot of buzz around outboard jets again. And if we would have had this conversation a year ago, I would have told you I'm seriously thinking about getting an outboard. And the reason for that was, so these inboards were coming from a distributor. All the jet boat manufacturers, you know, custom aluminum jet boat manufacturers across the country had to get these Rotax engines from a distributor. And it wasn't, from what I understand, it wasn't easy to deal with the distributor. And it just kept getting harder and harder to get the engines, to the point where these jet boat manufacturers were considering, you know, getting away from maybe dealing with that and going back and getting back into the outboard game. But since then, RockProof has been able to, you know, establish a relationship with Rotax, and they're getting motors direct. And from what I understand, they pretty much have an unlimited supply of engines coming in. So now that the motor problem has been fixed, I'm all in on inboards. Just there's different reasons for that. So it's the outboards, you can get them with a nozzle jet now, where the outboard's in a fixed position and then the nozzle just turns, and it's a cool design and everything like that. And if I was to get an outboard, it would definitely have that nozzle jet. But there's still some things about outboards that it wouldn't be my first pick. The weight, so I'm gonna get a 300 inboard moving forward. You compare that to a 200 horsepower outboard. Let's just compare some numbers. So a 300 inboard versus a 200 horsepower outboard. The inboard's gonna cost $10,000 less, you know, on average, and it's gonna weigh 200 pounds less. And this is simple physics, guys. When you have an extra 200 pounds hanging off the back of your transom versus, you know, a 200 pound lighter engine being mounted up in here, it's never gonna perform. You're never gonna get an outboard to perform exactly like an inboard's gonna perform. It's just not gonna happen. You're gonna get them, with a nozzle on an outboard, you'll get it to run as good as it can run, but it's still not, you're not gonna be able to throw it around as easy as an inboard. And I mean, if you fished on an outboard, you know, it's not, I don't want an outboard sticking up off the back of my boat. I mean, look at all this deck space right here. This is so nice having this all open. I don't want a big outboard hanging out over the back. So, you know, price, you know, to spend an extra 10 grand, have 100 less horsepower, and the extra weight, it just doesn't make any sense to me why I would go in that direction. I haven't had, you know, the reliability and everything's been great with the Rotax, so that's what I'm gonna do moving forward. Some other things that I did with this boat, you know, if you guys are handy, there's different things you want to service. I changed my plugs. It's a 3-cylinder engine. I changed my plugs twice over, you know, the course of owning it, and I always change my own oil. These are easy things to do. I mean, you could take it somewhere and get it done, or do it yourself. This is something I made myself. Well, this is a pump that they would recommend using for changing your oil, and it works fine. It works great and everything like that. Basically, what you do is, to change oil in one of these things, you want to stick the hose, you know, down. You pull the dipstick out of the engine. You stick that down in there. You bottom it out in the bottom of the oil pan, and you just pump all the oil out. You're usually going to get about a gallon of oil out of the engine. And, you know, change your oil filter, which it's pretty easy. But if you come around here, you can see oil filters right here. You can pop that cover off, get the filter, you know, change it out yourself, fill it back up. I believe it's 3.5 quarts of oil that go in it. You know, that's the pump that RockProof uses to change your oil. I made this myself. This is a pump. I guess it's like a hydraulic pump or whatever. I got it from Walmart, and then I used the different, different sections of hosing. I think this might be a 1/2 inch. That's what it starts with. And then that might be 3/8, and then I had to drop it down to 1/4. You gotta bottleneck it down. This dipstick tube won't accept anything bigger than, I believe that's a 1/4 inch. So if you guys wanted to try and make that yourself, you could. It's easy. I like it because I can keep it in the boat. It's always there with me. That pump, they both work. I think I might have like 30 or 40 bucks in that. I believe the sensor, that oil pressure sensor that I had go bad, trying to look for it on this engine. It was real easy to switch out. So that would be a coolant sensor, but it looks pretty much the same as that oil pressure sensor that I switched out. So I just pulled the plug off and backed it out, put the new one in, easy peasy, no big deal. So I guess, that kind of covers it with this boat. I have the stomp grate mounted underneath the platform. That's something I absolutely, I love. I don't want my stomp grate sticking up here. You do use that every now and then. I have a pole that fits in this hole, and you just kind of plunge it out. Works real nice. Got reverse gate extensions. The boat's got great reverse. Something else I get asked, we ought to touch on this. I got a Drado up front here, and I talked about that in some of my other videos. This makes it, excuse me, makes it easy getting the boat on and off the trailer. And I haven't had any major problems with it, but over the course of 3 years of using it, I learned, what you can and can't do with it. So what I love most about it is the ease in being able to launch the boat, where I can disconnect the winch, get up in disconnect the winch strap, get up in the boat, and then you just pull the lever and the boat goes rolling off the trailer. When you go to load the boat back up, that's not always as easy. You should be able to run this boat up on the trailer in theory, and hit the Drado and everything latches into place and you're good to go. It doesn't always latch that easy. And what you don't want to do is, if you get one of these things, don't ram the boat into this Drado, time after time again, and just hammer on it. Because eventually, all this is built real heavy, but when you're talking about ramming a 2,000-pound boat into a bow stop over and over again, if you do it enough, eventually you're going to have trouble. So if my trailer's on a goofy angle and I can't get it to latch in right, I don't force it. I'll just run up front and, hook the winch on, hook the strap on and tighten it up with the winch and get it up in the parking lot and secure it that way. You just don't want to run, real hard into these things. Eventually you're going to have, I feel like you're probably going to have problems there. I haven't had any problems with mine, but it's just, I think it's inevitable that you would if you were abusing it. Tandem axle trailer. I don't know how many hours I have on, miles I have on this trailer. It's gotta be 50, 60,000 by now. But I figure around maybe 45,000. I did change the bearings on the axles. This is just kind of random information, but they weren't going bad, but I just figured, I don't want to have any problems, so I think it cost me like 200 bucks. I did it myself, just pulled the hubs apart and repacked fresh bearings, slapped them in. No problems, never had a flat or anything like that. But that's probably the main reason why I go with the tandem axle trailer, just in case, I'm going to do a guide trip or on my way to go fishing. If I would have a blowout, I do have a spare tire that I can switch out real quick, but being on a tandem axle trailer, I should be able to get to where I want to go and, get out, do our fishing, and then maybe at the end of the day, the end of the fishing day, come back into the parking lot and, change my tire out. So I hope you guys find this video useful, you know, helpful if you're looking to spec one of these boats out. Boat's been great to me. I mean, really, I have 100% confidence in these Rotax engines now. I'm all in on Rotax. So if you guys got any questions, you know, comment below. Try and help you out as much as I can. And stay tuned for our next video. The next video is going to be on the new boat, and there are going to be some things that change about it. I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail about that right now, but we'll save that for the next one. Thanks, guys. Take care.